So we took a quick look at creating an ASP.NET Core application, and just really the purpose there was to help .NET developers get familiar with .NET Core and what that looks like, but also to help folks that have been doing .NET development for a while realize that it's still a very familiar scenario to them, very familiar structure. And we talked about just some of the things that look the same. One thing I want to talk about real quick before we end this session, though, is Application Insights. So this is something that we've talked about this a number of times before. Application Insights has been out for a couple of years. This is one of those sort of unknown areas that, what is Application Insights? Is this looking at my logs? If I'm a developer, do I care? If I'm an operations guy, do I care? You know, what's out there? The other thing that I want to talk about, though, is how is it, if I'm a developer, do I get Application Insights active? So we see Application Insights in the IDE. We see some references to that out in Azure, but there's actually a couple of steps that we need to take to do that. So I want to talk about both of those things. But let's just quickly talk about what Application Insights can give us. Application Insights really is a set of tools and services that will look at every aspect of your solution. Every aspect of your solution, client side, server side, all over the place. This is, for me, the perfect tool for DevOps. This is where, if you're an operations guy, you can go in and take a look at stuff. If you're a marketing director, you can go in and look at stuff. If you're a developer, you can watch the performance. So imagine this as IS logs on steroids plus a whole bunch of other stuff. There's a bunch of different pieces of Application Insights. There's a dashboard and ways that you can navigate through the structure of your solution. There's an application map that will sort of distribute things between client and server side. There's a search explorer where you can search for values, metrics explorer, there you can set alerts on metric threshold. I mean, there's just all sorts of cool things out there. The one that I love, though, is the ability to have custom events, and we'll look at that too. Custom events makes it easy for us to start tracking user activity. This is similar to Hockey App or some other scenarios where we can say, you know, I want to know what their path is, or I want to know how often users are using this feature, and they can add custom events or custom metrics to it there. So Application Insights also has this thing that is also almost a mystery to developers out there called analytics. That's actually what it's called, Application Insights Analytics. And this gives us the ability to do stuff that we used to write little apps and tools for back in the olden days against our IS logs. We can run queries, we can bring in data from external sources. Some very powerful querying and visualization tools out there for Application Insights. So for example, if we said, you know, show me everybody who is from this country that came in and used just this page during this time frame, and then connect that to some external database and pull in some profiles, we could actually do that through analytics. And we can also export all this stuff out to Power BI as well. So a whole bunch of cool stuff in here. A little bit of a learning curve for folks learning the query language, because there's a little bit of a different query language for Application Insight Analytics. We're not going to get in deep here, but at the end of this session, we're going to talk about some next steps. One of the next steps will be to learn this analytics query language out here. Really full support for all kinds of things, dates, times, strings, aggregates, everything that you would imagine, including a bunch of scenarios where you can bring in custom data types and things like that. But, you know, that's enough of that. Why don't we just go in and talk about how we can get this live.
I like it.
Okay.
And there's some great documentation out there in Application Insights, by the way. You know, it shouldn't be a mystery how our application is behaving, how people are using the application. Analytics are valuable for a lot of reasons, and for folks that have never been exposed to to Application Insights before, just realize that the capabilities are right there in the box. I know a lot of developers who have created a solution in Visual Studio 2015 usually, and they see Application Insights included in it by default, and they're like, what is Application Insights? So why don't you show us a couple of things you can do with it?
Okay, great. Let's do that. Let's flip back over to Visual Studio, and we'll talk about it from two different aspects. Getting your solution ready in Visual Studio to start reporting telemetry, and then also out in the portal real quick to show some things that we need to do in the Azure portal real quick to get this integrated. So let's do that. Let's flip back over to Visual Studio.